All right, everybody, welcome to the Monday episode of Locked On Avalanche. On today's episode, Nathan MacKinnon left out of the Hart nominees. Are we upset about that? JT Compher gets his season grade. And with the remaining teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs, what can the NHL push for these teams and make the Stanley Cup exciting? It's always exciting, but what individual players can they push to get to the masses? New episode of Locked On Avalanche starting right now.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And happy belated Mother's Day to all of those mothers who are tuning in as well. Very much appreciated there. All right, sir. Yeah, we're going to get to JT Compher's season grade in the next segment. And then, like I said in the opening, where's the NHL going with these teams? Can they drum up excitement with the teams that are left? And we'll also talk about this start time for this Game 7. Why do we continue to do this?
I'm curious, if they can rig the draft, why can't they rig better teams and start times?
God. It just does not make sense at all. We'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to start with the Avalanche, obviously. And over the weekend, right before the weekend, they announced the 3 finalists for the Hart Trophy. And Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, if you want to throw Mikko Rantanen in there, please feel free to do so. Not among the 3 finalists. They were obviously Connor McDavid, kind of obviously David Pastrnak, and maybe a little bit of, I guess maybe the one surprising one is Matthew Tkachuk from the Florida Panthers. We said a week ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, I mean, the bias in us would say, yeah, Nathan MacKinnon deserves to be a finalist. But I remember saying at the time, there's a good problem that the NHL has is that there's so many good players in the league and so many players this year that had good seasons that you can make the argument for. So that's why I feel like they should do more than 3 for this very reason. I'm not as upset that Nathan MacKinnon or Mikko Rantanen is not in the finalists as I am with Jared Bednar not being in the Jack Adams. But I still think Nathan MacKinnon definitely is one of those guys that you can make that argument that he should be at least a finalist, knowing that he's not going to win it because it's Connor McDavid's all day.
Yeah, and I think Matthew Tkachuk being up there is just one of those, feel-good stories. Wow, Matthew Tkachuk, get the conversation going. And I agree with you. It should be more than just 3 because Nathan MacKinnon should be there. Jack Hughes should be there. There's a lot of names that should be in that 3rd spot. And Nathan MacKinnon getting the snub. Yes, I mean, we're crying over spilt milk here. It's Connor McDavid's award.
Right.
He's going to get all the accolades. This is his league. We just exist in it. And I mean, this is Nathan MacKinnon's it's a career year for him. For him to get snubbed, it's understandable, but man, then now we're going to be playing all off season. Did he not have a better year than Matthew Tkachuk? Let's fight for bronze medal here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's probably where it's going to go McDavid. I think the only question is McDavid unanimous, right? He's going to win it, but is it going to be unanimous? It probably should be. And it's likely David Pastrnak in number 2. And this is, like you said, this is fighting for 3rd place, but it's just one of those things where you being in the final 3 is an achievement.
Yeah.
And I think for this season that MacKinnon had, you would have liked to see him get that noticed in that way. And it's funny, man, when the announcement came out and it was on the NHL's Twitter page and they had the graphic up, you go through that thread and people are upset pick your fan base, and they can throw in a player that on their team that they feel should be, and that's why I just feel like it should be more than 3, because there were so many guys, and you named a couple of them. I saw a lot of Jason Robertson should have been in there. Yeah. There's so many. So I don't want to sit here and just say like, oh, they snubbed our guy. I wouldn't even really call it a snub because you can have so many guys, but for this one, it would have just been one of those nice things to have to be recognized as a final 3. Where the Jared Bednar one, even with that's going to be won by Montgomery for Boston, but I would go to bat more for Jared Bednar and say, like, these are the reasons why he should win the Jack Adams.
Yeah,
why he should win it, not just be nominated. And for Nathan MacKinnon, I can't go that far to say, like, here's the reasons why he should win it, but here's the reasons why he should be nominated.
And I keep circling back to your point you made earlier about having just a top 3. I honestly, there's 32 teams in the league, 32 representatives. Even like Philly could say, hey, he was pivotal to us making it through the season.
Right.
Like, why not expand it to a top 5? And we'll talk about it in the last segment. Like, what can NHL push right now? Like, with it being such a foregone conclusion that it's Connor McDavid's award, the conversation for 4 and 5 would be interesting right about now.
Yeah, right.
To really heat up like social media and really get people talking about the league, because just yes, it's top heavy when it comes to stars, and there's a lot more stars in the NHL now, and it's a good thing. But you also have Connor McDavid up there, and that it's going to be year in, year out Connor McDavid's award unless something drastically terrible happens to Connor McDavid. It's year in, year out Connor McDavid. So you want to have that conversation for, well, yeah, Nathan MacKinnon. This is the most amount of games Nathan MacKinnon has played since 2018. So
and to that point, I kind of feel like that's why he's left out here. Is the games played. He only had 71, but he had 111 points. Matthew Tkachuk played in 79 games and had 109. So 8 less games for Nathan MacKinnon, but 2 more points. That's pretty impressive, if you ask me. For Connor McDavid, played all 82 games, 153 points. That's just, you don't see that a lot anymore. And then with Pastrnak, 82 games, 113 points. So he played in 11 less games than Pastrnak and was 2 points behind him. And again, we're ignoring Mikko Rantanen right now.
Yeah.
And I think, he had the best season of his career and could be in the argument as much as Matthew Tkachuk is. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic why they went with Tkachuk for the third nominee here. I'm and if you even want to ignore Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, like we've been saying, I think there's other guys who are right up there with him. So I want to see the voting and how close it is between third and 4th, 5th, 6th. You know what I mean? Like, how close is that? Because first is going to be foregone conclusion. Second is going to be a foregone conclusion. And those 3, 4, and 5, maybe even 6, that's going to be really, really tight to who got that third nomination. I am willing to bet it's Matthew Tkachuk by a point or 2 over the next 2 or 3 guys. And that's how he got into the third.
Yeah, and I wonder where Austin Matthews falls in things, because we haven't brought his name up yet. But I mean, he's one of the big sexy names that everybody loves to bring up every
name
year.
Recognition, yeah. So what did he have? Let me look up. Keep talking about him, but I'll look up his.
He's one of those rock star names, and Nathan MacKinnon usually falls into that big 3 when it comes to incredible players that are in the league right now, and to not see him up there is also surprising.
So Matthews, I mean, he didn't match his totals from last year at all.
Yeah.
74 games played, 85 points. And that's compared to last year's 106.
Yeah.
So he dropped off 21 points. So, and he played in last year, that 106 point season, he played in 73. So he played in 1 less game than he did this year. And last year in that 1 less game, he still had 21 more points And when you get 60 goals in a season like you did last year, like you're you're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think he was going to be in it for this year because he had a big drop off. The name recognition can only carry you so far, and when you have so many guys that are more up for it than you were this year, I didn't think he was going to be really in that mix.
Yeah, that's why I want to see that 3, 4, 5, 6, how the voting plays out. I want to see where he lands because it's the big name that everybody talks about, and he's a Leaf, so he automatically gets bonus points. Oh, and Chris is frozen. And no, but to have Nathan MacKinnon on the outside, I wonder how true that is, and I wonder when voting is tallied, what that means for Nathan MacKinnon and what that means for him going forward. And if you see the name of Pastrnak or Matthews up there next year.
It's going to change year to year. I mean, like you said earlier, I think, McDavid's always going to be in that mix, but those other two guys, I think you're going to see a lot of, in and out of who those other two guys are going to be year after year, because the league has a lot of stars and even up and coming stars that we haven't seen yet. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how those names fluctuate in and out year to year for those other two spots. So it is what it is, and we move on like we always do. So first, we are going to hear from, who do we have here? We got our Athletic Greens that we are going to hear from, and then we're going to get into JT Compher and his grade from last season. All right, but first, we have Athletic Greens, and Kyle and I have been talking about this for quite some time now, and you still got the can near you, or it's right there. Johnny on the spot.
It's usually under my pillow.
And if you're wondering what this stuff is, you just put 1 scoop of AG1 in a glass of water, and you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, your focus, even your aging, all the things that are important to you. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or even gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar. So there's no GMOs, there's no nasty chemical or artificial taste or anything disgusting. You're dressing it up. It looks good with the shades.
It's seeing everybody.
Yes, and it'll cost you less than $3 a day. And when you're investing in your health, what could be better than that? And it's cheaper than your cold brew and coffee habit. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Once again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. You do that so well. I'm going to send an email to Drew Carey.
I'm going to be a Price is Right.
Price is Right is calling, my man. All right. So next up for his season grade, we do this alphabetically. And you can vote whether you are on Twitter, on Instagram, or even on YouTube on our community tab. We put the poll up on all 3 of those socials. So if you want to vote in one or all 3, if you want to skew the voting for a couple extra votes, feel free. So we put these up, and you're on, along with Kyle and I, obviously, our individual grades. So let's put them up on the screen right now. If you are watching on YouTube, there they are. If you're not, I mean, this is across the board, except for me again. I feel like I'm the one who's kind of like the voice of opposition here. But it's B's across the board. On YouTube, you have 53% B. Twitter was 59%. Instagram was 57%. You also gave a flat B, and I went with an A- for JT Compher. So how'd you come to a B, sir?
I was kind of right there with you. I was hovering around A-, just flat A for a little while. And then I was getting ready to send you in my grade. And then I had an epiphany, a bolt of lightning out of the blue.
Oh man.
I said, "My lord, it's a contract year. What am I doing?"
Oh man, you're going to use that against him?
Well, as a recovering Nazem Kadri stan,
Yeah.
that would sing over the moon for Nazem Kadri last year and said,
Yeah.
"Oh, but he does this, but we let him walk right out the door." Not so fast, my friend. JT Compher, I see your numbers. I see what you're doing, but I also see you need a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Right.
wise to what you're doing here. And you go back and you look at JT Compher through the years, like, yes, this is a great year for JT Compher, but this is not like the status quo. Like, great.
Well,
It's great that you are doing this now, but why? Is it because the
but
team needed you, or you
yeah,
needed to show that you can?
maybe a little bit of both. Could be a little bit of both. And I can't grade him based on seasons past. You can take that into the equation. But you kind of like, for me, again, I'll say, like, what was the expectation and did they exceed it? And for me, JT Compher exceeded that expectation. The stats there on the screen for his season stats, and these are including the playoffs, 54 points. Now, prior to the playoffs, he had 52 points. So he did not have a good playoff. And if you read the comments that are up on all three of the social medias, that's where people are dinging him hard. So many people are saying, B for the regular season, maybe even some A. A lot of people are giving that like dual vote in the comments, saying this is what I give him for regular season, and it's either an A or B. And almost everybody's like F for the postseason. And I get that. He did not have a good postseason, but I can give you a laundry list of the Avalanche who did not have a good postseason. So it wasn't solely his fault that the Avalanche didn't do it. Did you? And I mean, you wanted him to continue what he was doing in the regular season, because we always, for as long as we've been doing the show, we look forward to postseason JT Compher. That's where he steps his game up. So you were expecting, following a good season, to continue that in the playoffs, and it was the opposite. This was an opposite year for JT Compher. It was a great regular season for him, followed by subpar postseason, when the opposite has always been true for him, where it's kind of like a subpar regular season, and then he steps it up in the postseason. Yeah, it was just odd for that to happen to him.
And for all the everydayers that listen in and out, when we always talked about JT Compher in the regular season, we always said, but wait, playoff JT Compher is right around the corner. And then it turned into that moment like when Geraldo like opened up that vault and it was nothing. That's what this felt like. Like, there's no playoff JT Compher this year. Like, what happened? And you're wanting that, especially after like this surge in production that he had in the regular season. You're like, oh, I can't wait to see when he flips that extra switch that he always does in the playoffs. It wasn't there. So I understand like kind of grading him for that. But when we're talking about in the first segment, Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen with 100+ points, and then we're looking at JT Compher with like 54, and we were like trying to sing the praises of guys with 30-point seasons, like with such an injury depleted team, you want a little bit more out of
them. Yeah, I get it. And you had some of these comments. Here's from at NHL Jeremy, says, C, can't have that regular season, then ghost in the playoffs when they needed someone else to score. Evan, I think it's Zobak. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. B for the regular season, F for the playoffs. You got that a few times. Here's one from M Rich Boxing, says Mikko made him look better than he did. C, did nothing without Mikko. I don't agree with that, M Rich. There was, Mikko played on the line with Nathan MacKinnon most of the time. JT Compher didn't play on a line with Mikko all that much. Maybe towards the end of the regular season into the playoffs, yes, because that's when Jared Bednar split up Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko.
It's a fascinating point.
I mean, he did, yeah, but he stepped his game up this year. You can't deny that. He stepped his game up. Another one, Greg Broncos said he was a ghost in the playoffs.
You can't spell playoff without F.
2 Fs. I love this name. Mateo Potato is his Twitter handle. B for the regular season, but man, did he drop off in the playoffs. Where there was another one. I think it might have been on YouTube. Peter Pumpkin Eater. He's a nice complimentary guy. Handled the extra workload like a pro. He did. He did have more of a workload, and yeah. Let's see. Good regular season, but disappointed in the playoffs. JT is a key contributor in secondary scoring, but still has room to improve. That's from Duncan Mathers 76. Andrew Ruggiero 1735. Good, but not great, and not bad. Almost like his playoff run. So you get, if he didn't have such a dreadful playoff, you'd be seeing probably more B, and the numbers, the percentages for B probably would be a little bit lower. You might have an A sprinkled in there somewhere, but I think it's the lasting memory of this season. And with JT Compher, it's what have you done for me lately? And in the playoffs, it was nothing. So that's going to kind of really ding his grade a lot.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like, nobody's talking about us winning the Central. We're all talking about losing to Seattle. That's the most recent thing. And it's nice that you had a great regular season, but we needed you in the playoffs and you just weren't there.
Yep. So, but in that, now we go into the offseason and we see where he goes. I don't expect him back. I really don't. I think he had that, he had a good season in his contract year. The unrestricted free agent market, especially for centers, is thin. So he might get overpaid by somebody who really needs what they think is going to solve their secondary scoring line. And I got news for you. It's probably not. And I just don't see JT Compher coming back because I think he's going to want too much. And I don't think the Avalanche can match what another team out there is going to have. So we might have seen the last of JT Compher in an Avs uniform.
Minnesota.
You like to think that Avalanche players go to Minnesota in free agency. I don't see that happening. I don't know. It's tough for me to predict the team where he's going to go right now. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you on it. But I got to think about like who needs what out there. Maybe Minnesota. You never know. They're familiar with them. That's for sure. They are. So. All right. So that's JT Compher's grade. Let me see if I can bring this up quick. See who's up for the next one. Who, if you want to guess off the top of your head, if you think you know who the Avalanche are.
We did Congliano, Compher.
Well, we have Lars Eller. I don't know if I should throw him in there or not.
He had such a small sample size.
That's what I mean. Like these guys that get like trade deadline stuff. I don't know if we want to put them in or not.
We go Foodie next.
No. I don't know. Let me think about that. If I want to put
that would default us to Sam Girard, wouldn't it?
So you have, then it'd be Pavel Francouz.
No,
Georgiev is before Girard.
Ooh.
So if we skip over Eller and we skip over Francouz, we would be going to Georgiev. So it's either Eller or Georgiev. If I feel like I want to do Eller first, I'll throw him up there.
Let us know if we should talk about Frankie or Eller.
And I just know if I put that up, there's going to be so many comments of like, there's not enough sample size. Can't give him a grade. Incomplete. So we might just skip over to Georgiev. So, all right. Let's hear from Game Time, and then we'll get into what's left in the NHL playoffs. And buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, and Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all these sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the ticket purchasing and start getting hyped for the fun that you are about to have. And what are some of the things that we love about the Game Time app? Well, they have flash deals and last minute tickets. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of the seat view, which is Kyle and I's favorite feature that they have. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. So once again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So Kyle and I record obviously the day before that the episode is officially released. And I still watch, like, even when the Avalanche are not in the playoffs, I'm still going to watch it, right? Still the best sport out there with the best playoffs. I still watch it, not as intently, but I still have it on. And Game 7, right? So excited for a Game 7. And it's between, a divisional rival and the team that beat the Avalanche in round 1. So you kind of you have some viewing interest there. And then I look at the start time and it's 10 o'clock Eastern. So it'd be 8 Mountain time. And then I was like, oh, maybe they have to be competing with the NBA. So I flipped over in my sports app where all the scores are. And that 76ers Celtics game is over. And it's like 4 o'clock, I think, when it was over. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are we putting a Game 7 that starts at 10 o'clock on the East Coast? Don't tell me East Coast people don't. And that's the only game you have on, by the way. That's it. They would tune in. Just hockey fans would tune in for that simply because it's hockey. And you're eliminating an entire coast. Make this make sense to me, dude.
When has NHL scheduling ever made sense?
It doesn't. That is the dumbest decision they can make with scheduling. The dumbest. That makes zero sense to me.
And the Avs and Kraken Game 7, there was only 2
I'm
games.
Sorry, I had the whole game wrong. It's
the Edmonton
Vegas. Yes.
But it's still it's your only game on. Like, even the Avs, that's what I was bringing up. Like, there was only 2 games on, and they still scheduled it in such a way where puck drop had to be delayed for the Avs and Kraken game. Like, can you not schedule your games to where you're not in fear of the competition? You're not competing with NASCAR. Like, let's drop the puck on Edmonton, Vegas. Like, what are we worried about here? And why are you scheduling it so late? And like, to Chris's point, like with eliminating a coast, look at the playoff teams that are remaining. What fan bases are you playing to? The big dogs are out. There's no Toronto. There's no Boston. There's no Tampa Bay. There's no Colorado.
Right.
You're playing, like, you have Carolina, you have Florida, you have Seattle, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas. These are not known as like the big fan bases that drive the league. So how are you trying to get everybody else back into this that are licking their wounds at home?
So it's a good point. And because I was a day ahead of myself and I had the wrong game, I think this makes it even worse that it's Vegas and Edmonton starting at 10 o'clock, because you have more star power in that game than you do for the game on Monday night, which is this Game 7 between Seattle and Dallas, which that starts at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So that's 6 o'clock Mountain time. So that's a little bit better, right? Like, you're going to have more people tuning into that game. That's on a Monday night. Why would you start a Sunday night game when the East Coast is going to bed at that start time to prepare? You got the work week starting back up, and there's nothing on. You had a freebie. You had a freebie to tune in and start this game at the game time that you're going to start on Monday. And you have people. You mean to tell me if you had an 8:00 start time on Sunday, that's between Vegas and Edmonton, people aren't going to be like, I know Connor McDavid plays for Edmonton. Let me check that out.
And everybody
And
knows the pomp and circumstance around Vegas and what they put on.
Right. So, and Vegas they have, some star power on there. People know who Jack Eichel is, right? So they would tune in for that. So it continues to be baffling to me on how this scheduling goes for the NHL and the playoffs and really all season.
It makes no rhyme or reason. It makes no sense. And it's like we're hockey fans. We get it. Like the NHL playoffs is honestly the best playoff form you can get in sports. Why is the NHL not proud of it where they're not slapping this Edmonton Vegas game on at noon in the mountain? Like sit down with your friends, have lunch, enjoy this game. Like make this Seattle Dallas game 7 a little bit earlier. Make this an event.
Yep.
Actually get to see the end of the game.
Because you're not drumming up any excitement for the Stanley Cup final.
No.
Because if you played these games earlier and people would just tune in because there's nothing else on and it's a sporting event and it's the playoffs and hey, it's the greatest player on the planet with Connor McDavid and he eventually makes it to the Stanley Cup final, you're going to get those people who will just watch it because they've seen him already play a couple games because you allowed them to watch that game. And now, if he makes it to the final, you're just getting your built-in audience who are going to watch that. And who knows what time they're going to have these Stanley Cup final games start? Man, they got to correct that because what's left? What's the best matchup? What do you think the best matchup is for? I mean, and you got Florida and Carolina on the East who are going. That's the Eastern Conference Final. That might be a ratings.
You could say it's a disaster.
Dive. It might be a ratings dive. I mean, they have good players.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams, and we were just talking about Matthew Tkachuk, who's a Hart finalist, and Carolina does have good players on that team. But guys like Nishis, who's a fantastic player, he's not a household name.
What if you have Dallas, Vegas, Carolina, and Florida as your conference finals? That's 3 of the 4 teams from the South. And as born and raised in Alabama, that's great for me. But that's not going to get ratings. Nobody's going your hockey.
Yeah.
Like the hardcore hockey fans are going to kind of resent that.
I think your best ratings with what's left is Edmonton, Carolina. I think your worst ratings with what's left is probably Seattle and probably Florida. And that's not to say Florida, like I said, Florida has some players that, are. I always go back to Tkachuk, but they have some really, excellent players on that team. What was the talking point during all of the Seattle matchup with the Avalanche is their depth. They don't have those household names. They just have great players or consistent players from top to bottom. That's a tough sell to people. There's no name that grabs you on Seattle. So if it's Seattle and Florida, that's going to be a tough sell to the public.
I think Dallas, Florida might be even harder sell.
Could be. Well,
I think Seattle with the colors alone and it's new and it's still fresh.
That's what you push.
Yeah, that's what you push is the new team. Look at this. This is entertaining. Right. But Dallas, Florida, if you saw that was the Stanley Cup final and you've been checked out for a little bit, you're going to be like, okay, never mind.
But Dallas is a pretty big market. So I think just on that alone, there might be some interest. Maybe a little bit more, but that would be a tough. If the NHL wants the ratings, Edmonton has got to get in. They do. They do.
Is this why every game is at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
They're embarrassed.
I don't know.
They didn't rig it right.
Well, we'll see. All right, everyone. That's going to wrap it up for today. We thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Let us know in the comments what you think on everything that we've been talking about here today. All right. We'll be back tomorrow with anything new going on with the Avalanche and anything all around the NHL and the playoffs. So that'll be a wrap it up for today. Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, joins me. I'm Chris Pacelli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys